Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey. I'm your host Neil, and today we're going to be talking about the Florida Panthers. So how will the Florida Panthers end their season? Let's take a look. At home, they're 11-9-3. Away, they're 9-9-5. And they're currently on a one-game losing streak. They've played 47 games, and they've got 35 games to go. They've got 108 goals for and 127 goals against, so they're a minus 19. So they're having number one, a really hard time scoring goals, and number two, a really hard time not allowing goals. So as I mentioned in my other team videos, I have a ranking system which consists of three categories. We have winnable, we have on the fence games, and then we have losable games. And by losable games, I don't mean games that the Panthers are necessarily going to lose, but games that they have the most highest risk to lose. So based on that, I looked and see who the Florida Panthers play for the rest of the season, and I assign one of three of those categories to those teams. I add up the numbers, and that creates a percentage. So with that said, I see the Florida Panthers having 4 winnable games, 17 on the fence games, and 14 losable games. So definitely a very tough schedule for the Florida Panthers. And with that said, that gives us 11.4% winnable chance, a 48.5% on the fence chance, and a 40% losable chance. So really, really tough numbers. And obviously this is subjective. This is my own personal opinion, but I think they really have a really tough end of the season ahead of them. And I honestly don't see them making the playoffs, which is unfortunate because they are one of my favorite teams out of the East. Montreal wasn't doing very well last year, so I was really putting a lot of time and effort into watching and cheering for Florida. And it was about the same time I got this hat. And they went out in the first round in a very hard-fought series against the Islanders, unfortunately. And it doesn't look like their bad luck ended there because they're not having a great season. And that could be due to a few things. We don't really know at this point. But, they've had some injuries. They've had completely lackluster offense. I don't know what's going on. They did make some changes in the offseason, so that could be part of it. But the biggest thing this season out of Florida was that they fired their coach, Gallant, in the middle of the season, which was a pretty big shock to a lot of people. Not necessarily because a coach getting fired is rare. It happens, and it probably happens more than you think. But it happened in the middle of the season, and the way it happened was really frustrating to a lot of people, including myself. So if you don't know the story, Jagr Gallant was the coach of the Florida Panthers. They were playing Carolina, which I think they lost that game, and they fired him right after the game. And that's not necessarily unusual, but the frustrating part for a lot of people was that they left him at the arena. They didn't even call him a cab. There was pictures that the media took of him trying to find a cab or trying to find a drive away from the airport. Away from the arena to an airport, and it caused a lot of controversy. And since then, I've really had a hard time cheering for the Panthers, and they really haven't done that well since. I mean, they've got their new coach, Tom Rowe, who's taken over for Gallant, and he's done okay, but he hasn't done any better than Gallant, so it hasn't been an improvement, so I'm not sure what they were thinking. And another reason people were angry was because Jagr Gallant is a coach that people like. He's a very well-respected person in the NHL community, and to see him get fired, people took offense to that because it was like a shot at them almost, because Jagr Gallant is such a stand-up guy. How could you ever fire him? Anyways, that story is all over, and the Florida Panthers are, I think, basically playing 500 hockey right now, so it's going to be really tough for them to get into the playoffs, not to mention the hard schedule they have coming up. So that basically ends my conclusion on the Florida Panthers. I thank you very much for watching. If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe button. I'd love for you to join Post to Post here on YouTube. And if you've got social media, go over on Facebook and find me there. I'm at Post to Post Show, or Twitter, and I'm at Post to Post Show there. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hit me up on either of those two social media platforms. Otherwise, leave a comment below, and I'll make sure I reply to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And until next time, adios.